I read Assistant to the Villain now. It's time for a swim. SWIM stands for Summary, What I Thought, Issues I Had with the Book, and My Rating. Assistant to the Villain starts with the main character, Evie Sage, accidentally becoming the assistant to the villain. The villain has many people working for him, like a chef, a magical healer, and even a dragon tamer. The villain is basically the CEO of like torturing and unaliving, so he has a lot of people working for him. While at his very lovely home, aka Massacre Manor, the villain notices that all of his evil plans are going awry. Him and Evie figure out that there is a mole working at the Massacre Manor and is giving away information to the villain's arch nemesis, King Benedict. The rest of the book follows Evie and the villain trying to figure out who the mole is at Massacre Manor and who could be leaking all this important information to King Benedict. Now for my thoughts. Truthfully, I was very apprehensive to start this book because I'm not a big romance reader and I always heard people talking about the romance aspect of this series, and it really put me off for a while. But realistically, I would put this book more as a fantasy mystery with a little bit of romance sprinkled in, but not a lot. Like, sure, you're not really going to go a page without Evie Sage talking about how attractive she thinks the villain is, but you're also not going to get like a romantic confession happening in every single chapter. It's more so you just see it through each of their lenses. Because yes, this book does go back and forth in perspectives, but not as badly as some other books. After the first few chapters, I got really into this book and I had a hard time putting it down, which sucked because I was in the middle of finals week at college, but I made it through, right? And let me tell you, when it was finally revealed who the mole was, I lost my mind. And I don't want to give any spoilers. This is a spoiler-free review, but oh my god, if you have read this book and you know, I lost my mind. And you will too. This book does a very phenomenal job of making you learn about all these different side characters that you really wouldn't care about any otherwise. And because you're learning about all these different characters, you're like, okay, well, this person could be it. Well, this person could be it. You think it could be anybody. And then the reveal happens. And your mind gets blown. At least my mind did. Some other people probably figured it out. I haven't looked at any reviews to see if people have figured it out. However, I did not figure it out. It took me a little while. And then it revealed. And then I went, oh my god. And everything clicks. You have that little piece of the puzzle that's missing, and then you get to this final section where they're talking about the mole and who it could be, and then it clicks. And then you start thinking back, and everything hits all at once. Everything everywhere all at once. Great movie, by the way. Now for my issues with this book. So this book talks about a lot of different side characters. However, there was one in particular that I really wanted to learn more about, and it was the one that we did not learn any more about. We had one scene, pretty much, and then a little bit of backstory, but I wanted more. I wanted everything. I'm hoping there's more in the second book, but I don't know. My other issue with this book is with our main female character, Evie. I loved her. However, I personally do not like the classic old, I don't want to say old, oldish trope about a female main character whose main quality is that she's clumsy. And that's her thing. I think it works sometimes. However, it gets aggravating after a while when you just constantly are seeing all these like bubbly, happy girls who are very clumsy in the media. And that's the whole thing. And in the very beginning, it felt like that was all that her qualities were like, she's nice and she's clumsy. However, as the book progresses, you see her go from like this clumsy-ish personality to being a little bit more badass. And that was what I liked. I was doing perfectly fine with the clumsiness until there's this one chapter, this one little section where her clumsiness causes some more chaos to happen, and it was very sitcom-y. You know, like if I was watching it on TV, I would be laughing and being like, oh my gosh, that's so silly, that's so funny, that's so camp. However, when you're reading it in a book, it kind of like takes you out of the moment and puts you over there and is like, she's just so clumsy. And I was like, okay. And then I got to the next chapter and I got right back into the story. So that's why I have an issue with it, is because yes, she progressed through the story, which is great. We love character growth. However, that one scene in particular was like, besides that, loved her. Now for my rating. This book had a little bit of romance. It had a great mystery. I loved the big reveal. I thought that was done perfectly. Like, I genuinely was sitting, I have a chair over there, I was sitting over there, and I gasped when it was revealed. I really liked reading this book. I really did. And I genuinely can't wait to read the second book. I am going to give this book 4 stars. Thank you for joining me on this swim. See you next time.